Well, hello, religion scholars or philosophers, or however we might consider ourselves, those who are seeking truth and wisdom, which transcends, maybe, is a good label for the people who I'm speaking to with this video. I consider myself to be a seeker of truth and universal understanding of the cosmos and transcendent reality. And I have come across a terrific book that I want to introduce you to and to encourage you to acquire for yourself and read. It's about traditional Islamic philosophy and cosmology. Okay, it's written by a contemporary scholar whose name is William Chittick. He is still a professor of comparative religion at Stony Brook University in New York. He is, I believe, a Westerner, meaning not born in the Middle East, but born, let's say, I should actually have this on hand before I get into the book. Let's see. Received his education in the U.S. He holds a PhD in Persian language and literature from the University of Tehran. He was an associate and an assistant professor at the Imperial Iranian Academy of Philosophy. He is the assistant editor of Encyclopedia Iranica at Columbia University. He worked as the assistant professor of religious studies at the State University of New York, Stony Brook, and he is presently holds the post of professor of comparative studies. A greatly respected scholar, he has studied Sufism in theory and in practice, and he has written widely about its various manifestations. Okay, I came across his work because I had actually an abiding interest in Islam from my childhood, having lived in Saudi Arabia for more than a year during a period in my life when religion and religious questions were very much on my mind. So my parents were Christians, and there was something of a religious controversy when my dad suddenly abandoned Catholicism for the Southern Baptist variety, and that caused a bit of turmoil in my home life, and my parents vigorously debated theology when I was around 12 years old or so, and then straight from there we headed off to Saudi Arabia, and I was exposed to Islam. One of the topics that my parents hotly debated was whether Catholics go to heaven or not. The Southern Baptist denomination in the 70s had the notion that Catholics were not actual Christians, and therefore they were doomed to spend eternity in the lake of fire. The rationality of that was rejected. The arguments that my dad presented to my mom were rejected. But of course, the Southern Baptists still hold the notion that Muslims are in fact minions of Satan and doomed. Yeah, obviously right now there's a big conflict between Iran and the United States, and Pete Hegseth is in charge of the United States military operations, and Pete Hegseth is an evangelical Christian who believes that Muslims are in fact minions of Satan, and therefore they're enemies of Christianity. And the truth is that neither one of those statements is accurate. And a certain 17th century theologian addressed the presence of Islam on the global religious scene in comparison to Christianity, and that religious scholar is named Emanuel Swedenborg, who I have spoken about many times on this and my other channels and on my rationalmetaphysics.com website. So there is a strong affinity between Christianity and Islam, traditional mystical Islam and traditional mystical Christianity, a la Swedenborg, have a lot in common. And I've previously been acquainted with the convergence of the two religions through a scholar named Henry Corbin, who is a French scholar who studied Islam and Christianity, particularly the mystical varieties. And particularly he was interested in the Islamic mystic whose name is Ibn Arabi, or Ibn Arabi. I'm not sure about the pronunciation of that. But he is a very interesting character who wrote a lot of metaphysical philosophy that strongly aligns with what Swedenborg was talking about. So there's a book called Swedenborg and Esoteric Islam, which is an excellent book. And another one that I highly recommend along those lines, exploring the metaphysical visions of Arabi, is another book by Corbin. And this book is called Alone with the Alone, Creative Imagination in the Sufism of Ibn Arabi. Okay. So, but the current book I want to discuss is really focused on the basics of Islamic traditional philosophy and cosmology. So, like I said, this is the work of William Chittick, a modern scholar of Islam, and the title of the book that I want to introduce is Science of the Cosmos and Science of the Soul: The Pertinence of Islamic Cosmology in the Modern World. So Chittick is a well-known scholar of Islam. This book, A Vision of Islam, I highly recommend for anyone interested in understanding the basics of that religion. Highly readable and modern. And it's presented to a general audience, particularly an audience who has their foundation in the Western world, as opposed to the Middle Eastern world of Islam. But anyway, this book, The Science of the Cosmos and the Science of the Soul, is just a really profound work of general philosophy. And it is drawn from traditional Islamic philosophy, but it really tries to apply itself to the universal spiritual and philosophical development of the human individual consciousness, particularly our potential as fully realized spiritual beings in possession of true humanity, as it were, idealized humanity. So the way I'm going to approach this book is that it's such a well-written book, and I realize that a lot of people are somewhat taken aback reading philosophy, and maybe you have a marginal interest in Islamic philosophy in particular, but I really can't express how strongly I feel about this book. I really feel like it's such a great book. And, in the front of the book, it says that it should not be reproduced. There's a, very serious copyright. No part of this publication may be reproduced in whole or in part, or stored on a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form by any means, electronic or mechanical, including photocopying and recording and otherwise, without written permission from the publisher, who is located in Pakistan. So, that's kind of an intimidating, declaration at the beginning of the book. But, I'm going to go ahead and, I have a scanning device. I could scan this book and post a PDF of it. But I'm not going to do that. But I am going to basically read it to you. I present a written version of what I'm going to read on my website. So you could read along or just read it there. And if Chittick sends his guys, his publishing company, after me, then I guess I'll just have to face the consequences. But Chittick's a pretty old guy, and he seems like he's pretty comfortable, and I think that he probably cares more about his message reaching the general population than the $25 he might get a piece of through the publishers here. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of basically read you the book. And I think it's pretty readable. The book itself is 150 pages, and my summary, which is really just a large collection of excerpts, chips it down to about 45 pages. So I cut it by 2/3. But there's a couple sections in there that are sort of fluff and whatnot that aren't essential to the basic message of the book, and the important ideas are contained in my 45-page boil down, which I'm going to read to you in a series of videos upcoming starting tomorrow morning. Okay. So, until then, these videos, I suppose I'm going to present chapter-wise, so maybe they're going to be like 15 or 20-minute chapter-ish excerpts from the book. And I will be conversational in my reading of it and give you a little bit of my Swedenborgian perspective layered on top of what Chittick writes about Islamic philosophy. So I'm looking forward to reading that to you tomorrow. And until then, I wish you well, and I hope you'll tune in for subsequent episodes on this book, which is a really, really profound work of general philosophy. And if you got the $25, it's $25 well spent. If you don't got the $25, then I'm going to give you an pirated version. Forgive me. Lahore. Let's see. Anyway. Suhail Academy in Pakistan. I hope you won't come after me. Yeah. I have 3 subscribers and about 4 views on my videos and almost no traffic on my website, so I'm really not worried about them finding me. All right. So I'll see you tomorrow.